Hello everyone and welcome back to Chess With MNM. Guys, today's game is a game from another planet. Today's game is so crazy, and I mean today's game you will change all the rules that you know about chess, and you will change everything that you know about chess. Today's game between Stockfish and Leela Chess Zero. And before we start this video, there's like button below the video. You have to click on it now because you will love this video. I know that, okay? So if you are a subscriber, just subscribe. However, you will not lose anything. And also there's like button below the video. You can click on it also. And you have to watch this video until the end because this game is so crazy game. Leela Zero with the white pieces, Stockfish with the black pieces. Leela Zero opened this game by c4, the English opening by Leela Zero. Now e6 played here by Stockfish. Okay, knight to c3, no problem. Sorry, not knight to f6, what knight to f6? c5 played here by Stockfish. Knight to f3 played, and now knight to f6. g3, I want to develop my bishop on this nice diagonal. Knight to c6, developing the other knight, and now bishop to g2, developing the bishop, also preparing to castle. And here queen to b6 played by Stockfish, activating the queen and also putting more pressure on the pawn on the b2 square. Okay, so here e4 played by Stockfish, grabbing grabbing the control of these squares. So here d6 played by e4 by Leela Zero, and d6 by Stockfish. Okay, this is the e4 by Leela Zero, d6 by Stockfish, preventing not all the white to push e5 to grab more space on the center. And now rook to b1 played by Leela Zero. The idea is I'm preparing to pushing a3 and b4 on your queen. So here after rook to b1, bishop to e7, I will castle. It's not a problem for me. Here Leela Zero simply castle, and now a6. a6, the idea about this move is that when I move this queen away, so b5 will be a nice idea. So here after a6, d3 plays, supporting these pawns on the e4 and also on the c4 squares. Stockfish here simply castle, and now h3, preventing or controlling the g4 square from the knight or from the bishop if the black pushed e5 at some point. So here knight to d7 played by Stockfish. I want to remaneuver my knight from the d7 into the e5 square. Leela Zero said no problem. You can do what you want to do with your knight. Bishop to e3. I want to develop my bishop also on your queen's diagonal. And now knight d to e5. And here Leela Zero played a beautiful move, and it is knight back to e1. The idea that I don't want to exchange pieces because I want to keep the pieces because I want to attack your king because I needed to attack your king. Also, by knight to e1, I opened the way for my queen to enter into the king side to make an attack on this king on the g8 square. So here after knight to e1, knight to d4 played by Stockfish. Stockfish has a nice knights on the center, strong knights on the center, no problem. But here after knight to e4, Leela Zero said I'm not interested about that, and b4 by Leela Zero. The idea here that if you capture the pawn, here Stockfish played queen back to c7, okay? But if you capture here, let's say c capture on b4, then I have knight to a4, and it's a strong move. I'm attacking the only defender of that knight on the d4 square. So you have to play something like queen to a7, sorry, to keep protecting that knight. And now rook capture on b4 comes. Now rook capture on b4, the threat is knight to b6, closing the diagonal, and then attacking the pawn on the knight, sorry, on the d4 square. And the problem that you cannot move it, because if you do that, then you will lose your queen. And the engineer says that the white has a nice advantage at this position. So here for this reason, here after b4, Stockfish said no, I'm not forced to capture, however. So let's move our queen back, queen to c7, and here Leela Zero pushed a4. Let's grab more space on the queen side by b4 and a4. Here bishop to f6. Let's develop our bishop on this nice diagonal, and now f4 played by Leela Chess Zero. Leela Zero here get crazy. F4, e4, c4, b4, a4. Leela Zero here want to grab all the board. F4 played, attacking the knight on the d5 square. So here knight e to c6 played, and now b capture on c5. The idea that when you capture by the d, and this what happened, now no longer you don't have a pawn to control the e5 square, so simply I can push e5 on your bishop. So e5 and bishop back to e7 played by Stockfish, and now king to h2 played by Leela Zero. And okay, rook to b8, let's push b5 and let's make something on the queen side, because Stockfish has to do something. Stockfish cannot just set and wait alpha z Leela chess 0 to improve himself. So here rook to b8, preparing to pushing something like b5, and now knight to f3. I mean, let's develop our knight. So knight capture on f3 played, and now not bishop capture but queen capture to activate the queen, and now rook to d8 played, attacking the pawn on the d3 square. So we queen back to e2 to protecting the pawn. And now not b5 by Stockfish, but b6 played here. I mean, you can play b5 actually, but however here Stockfish said no, I will play b6, clearing the b7 square for my bishop, also supporting my c5 square, because there is a pressure on that pawn by this bishop on the e3 square. So here b6 played, and now knight to e4, developing the knight into the e4 square. And now knight to b4 played, putting more pressure on the d2 square. Here Leela 0 didn't protect the pawn. I mean, Leela 0's idea is that, I mean, what the idea about this, I mean, sorry, why Leela 0 didn't protect the pawn, we will see in the next moves. Here bishop to d2 played by Leela 0. He said, if you want to capture it, it's not a problem for me. Stockfish said, okay, I'll play queen to d7, and I mean, I'm attacking this pawn treble, so I mean, you will not be able to defend that pawn. But actually, Leela 0 defended, protected that pawn by this. Bishop capture on b4 played, c capture on b4, and now d4. And this move is so tricky and so beautiful move actually. The idea that if you touch the pawn on the d4, so simply rook b to d1 will trap the queen. Can you believe this? I mean, you cannot move your queen to anywhere. The file controlled by the rook. The c5 square controlled by the knight. The c6 square also controlled by the knight. And this square is controlled by the rook and the queen. I mean, your queen simply trap it. So here you cannot capture the pawn on the d4 square, and it's a beautiful trap actually. Now queen to b7. Let's develop our sorry, not queen. Bishop to b7. Let's develop our bishop. Rook b to d1 played now by Leela 0, supporting the pawn on the d4 square. Now bishop to c6 played. Actually here you can capture. Sorry, not here. What happening? Okay, you can no. You can capture on the a4 square by the queen, but here Stockfish said no, I will play bishop to c6, developing, and I will capture the pawn with the bishop to develop my bishop, okay? Leela 0 said welcome, capture it, rook to d2, if you want, but just, if you want to capture it, just don't attack my rook. Stockfish said, well, it's not a problem for me, thank you so much. Bishop capture on a4, and now rook to a1, putting a pressure on the bishop on the a4 square. Now rook d to c8 played, putting a pressure on the c4 pawn. And here Leela 0 pushed his big push, and it is d5. d5, let's open the file on your queen. Of course you don't want to capture, because if you capture, let's say e capture on d5, then I mean c capture on d5 comes. D capture on d5, d6 is the next move, and d6 will remove this bishop. I mean, let's say if you played anything like h6, then d6 come. d6, okay. D6 comes. I mean, d6, where you will put this bishop. If you move your bishop away into the d8, I mean, this bishop is so unusable bishop, and I have so strong passed pawn on the 6th rank. So for this reason here, after d5, bishop to b3 played, trying to make a counter attack on the queen side by attacking the pawn on the c4 square. So here rook to c1 played by Leela 0. Leela 0 said, I gave to you the pawn on the a4, but I cannot give to you this pawn on the c4. So here bishop to a4, and now rook to b1, putting a pressure on the pawn on the b4 square. And I mean, something like d6 is my next move. By this I will remove the defender of that bishop, of the pawn, sorry. So here a5 supporting the pawn. And now h4 played by Leela 0. What the idea by h4? We will see in the next move. We will see what Leela 0 will do in the next moves. Okay, here after h4, queen to e8 played, and now d6 attacking the bishop. Bishop back to d8. g4 played here by Leela 0. Keep pushing pawns on the king side. Also, if you capture on the a4, on the h4, sorry, then g5 will be the lead. Yeah, I mean g5 will be the lead. The next move will be king to h3 to capture the bishop, and I mean your bishop just trap it. So here after g4, bishop back to c6 played, and now h5 played by Leela 0. Keep pushing pawns on the king side. Here, king to h8 played. I mean, Stockfish just waiting. Stockfish has nothing to do, and now g5 played by by Leela 0. Now the idea is preparing to pushing f5. So here queen to f8, and now rook to f1, supporting f4 f5 push. Now b5 played. I mean, Stockfish trying to do something on the queen side, but here simply Leela 0 pushed his big push, and it is f5, f5, and Leela 0 has so strong pawns on the 5th rank, or on the black side, let's say. Okay, now here after, I mean, f5 is a strong move actually, because here if you try to play something like b capture on c4, you want to make a counter attack on the other side, then f capture on e6 come. Now, as you have, three connected passed pawns on the queen side, also I have three connected passed pawns on the center and also on the 6th rank, okay? And also e7 is a threat, e capture on f7 is a threat, rook capture on f7 is a threat, the queen also, and the rook comes into the f file to put a huge pressure on that file, g6 also is a threat. There is too many threats that the white has here, and what is the black's counterattack? This pawns, I mean, the white is able to stop it by his pieces. So here after f5, e capture on f5 played by Stockfish. Let's exchange some pawns on the king side. Rook capture on f5, and here bishop to d7 played. Now the normal player or the human will move his rook away, but here simply Leela 0 said, okay, it's not a problem, let's play queen to f1 and take that rook, it's your rook. I mean, the idea by this move is that the idea here that this rook on the f5 costs a lot, or more than this bishop on the d7, or let's say the light squares bishop, because this light squares bishop is the only defender of this light squares on the center, and it's the squares that not allow these pawns to get pushed. Okay, so here Stockfish said, okay, thank you so much, bishop capture on f5, queen capture on f5, and now b capture on c4. B capture on c4, Stockfish trying to do something on the queen side, but here simply Leela 0 played d7, attacking the rook. So here rook to d6 played by Stockfish, and now rook to d6, knight to d6, sorry. Now this rook on the c6 trying to stopping these pawns from push it, but here by knight to d6 I developed my knight. I closed the file or the rank, let's say, on your rook, so I will be able to push e6 or g6 as next moves. So here rook capture on d6, Stockfish, okay, he said, okay, let's give him back his rook. And now not rook capture on d6, but e capture on d6. If you capture by the rook, then it will be a terrible blunder, because now the black has the advantage here. Because here simply the black can play bishop to c7, attacking your rook. When you move your rook away, let's say into the d2, okay, then simply I can play rook to d8, or simply I can push my pawns. Okay, let's say c3, okay, and let's say here you play something like rook to d5, and then I can keep pushing my pawns. And the idea that your pawn on the my pieces, stop it, your pawns, your passed pawn, and you cannot push it. Okay, so here instead capturing by the rook, here e capture on d6 played. The idea here that I want to play rook to e2 and then rook to e8 to capture your queen, or if you capture by the queen, then I will bring a queen. So here after bishop e capture on d6, bishop to b6 played, opening the way for the rook to control the e8 square. Here king to h3 played by Leela 0, developing the king, and now queen to g8 played. I mean, Stockfish has nothing to do here actually. Bishop to d5 played, attacking the pawn on the f7 square, so here rook to f8, and here Leela 0 plays so strong move, and it's g6, and g6, the idea about this move that here, if you try to play something like pawn capture on g6, with an idea that if you capture my queen, then I will capture your queen, but here simply I have queen to e5, and the problem is that you cannot move your queen to anywhere. Even if you play something like rook to f7, then I have bishop capture, and after queen capture, then simply I have queen to e8 check. You have to block by the queen, and then simply have rook to f2. The next move is rook to f8, and then I'll grab your queen. Even if you capture by the rook, by the bishop, so bishop capture on f2, then simply no longer your bishop controlling the d8 square, so simply I can bring a queen, and queen capture on g8 is the next move, and it's checkmate. You cannot prevent this. So here after g6, h6 played by Stockfish, not all of the white to capture on the h7, and now pawn capture on f7 played simply by Leela 0. Queen to h7, please, let's just exchange the queens, and now simply queen to g6. It's not a problem for me, but if you want to do that, just make this pawn on the edge help his brother on the f7 square. So here b3, trying to make something on the other side, but here simply after b3 after b3 rook to e2 played. Rook to e2, I want to play rook to e8 and I will capture on the f8 and this will be a checkmate. How to prevent this? No way to prevent this. Queen capture on g6, h capture on g6, and then bishop to c5 played. Rook to e8, there is no way to prevent the checkmate, but I mean the engines doesn't resign, okay? So for this reason the engines continue until the end. So here after after rook to e8, bishop capture on d6, d8 queen, and now b2, but here rook capture on f8, bishop capture on f8, queen capture on f8, and it was at this position that Stockfish get checkmated. And Leela Zero wins this game. So yeah, I mean this was the game and this was the video. Hope you really enjoyed it. If you enjoyed this video, if you enjoyed these games between the engines, please don't forget us by the like and subscribe. Okay. Also, you can write that in a comment. And yeah, this is all that I want to say. And see you in the next videos. See you.